Nice to meet you.
Pete Hanna. How are you, my friend?
I'm good, thanks, Sean. How are you?
Very good. Good to see you.
Likewise.
Good week in London here. The Excel.
Yeah, it's raining though this time.
We were just saying, I was saying I'm happy to be inside.
Yes, most definitely.
Yeah, when the rain's going like this, you want to be inside.
Most definitely.
Yeah. Thankfully, we have that option, and we're smart enough to make that decision to be inside.
Good.
Not every company does the same when it comes to bringing their data in out of the storm, right?
Yes.
So we're going to talk a little bit about that because data is the lifeblood of a business.
Yeah.
And it's important to protect that. So tell me a little bit about your role at Object First and what Object First does, and then we're going to talk about some of the things that take place here in Europe.
So I'm VP of Sales for Western Europe, which is the UK, Benelux and Nordics countries for Object First. And Object First is a secure, simple and powerful storage solution specifically for Veeam environments that provides immutable backups and effectively makes customers simply resilient.
I love it. And you have some great brand names, which maybe you'll toss a few of them out. Oopie.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So we're here in the UK, and I think you cover Europe as well.
Yes.
Not immune to maybe even lead the way in some regards in terms of regulations.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
To protect consumers, to protect businesses.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that organizations in Europe have to be particularly aware of when it comes to doing business with each other and consumers and managing their data?
Yeah, I think some of the challenges that the organizations have is making sure that they protect themselves from ransomware as much as they possibly can, and not just protecting themselves from it, but enabling them their ability to recover as well and recover quickly. And there's actually quite a few, even though it's can be a dry subject sometimes. There's a lot of regulation that's happening and has happened already in Europe. And then next week in the UK is the third reading of the Cybersecurity Resilience Bill, which is kind of like
Is that the CRA?
CSR, yeah. Which is kind of like its second last step before it gets what's called royal assent, which then means that it can be enshrined into law and then it becomes mandatory for organizations. But I think it's more than 90% there. So the key parts of the bill are absolutely applicable today. And we would encourage organizations to not hang around, not wait until that becomes law, and actually make the moves today to make sure that that's in place.
Now, your perspective, our organizations, in the security industry, we talk about the hammer of regulation is kind of the driver for budgets to fund the controls and the policies and whatever.
Sure.
Do you find that organizations in Europe are ahead of that, so they don't want to wait for the hammer? Kind of to your point that they should do the right thing regardless.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think some of that's been driven by the fact that so in the UK, for example, the older regulation, the NIST regulation, was updated for Europe to NIST 2, and that's kind of we see organisations moving there, and that's almost 10 years old, that regulation, but actually. What's really changed is the threat landscape in that time. So a lot of the detail that's outlined in that older bill is effectively not sufficient enough for organizations to protect themselves. Ransomware has just exploded over the last few years. And that's the underlying thing within the Cybersecurity and Resilience Bill, is effectively to say, how do you protect yourself from ransomware? More importantly, how do you recover from it? And what things do you have in place to allow yourself to ensure yourself that actually you can recover quickly, and you can recover your data very, very quickly should the unfortunate events happen. And we know that cyber attacks are happening more and more regularly.
So from an operational perspective, it's easy to put this on the cyber folks, but there's all kinds of different lines of business owners and different operations and back office, front office. a lot of them run their own things. They turn to IT, but then security has to look at all this. Operationally, with the bill in mind and the broader regulatory landscape in mind, what do organizations need to think about?
That's a really good question. So the bill effectively kind of, the problem with sometimes when you have regulation, it becomes checkboxes, right? You know, have you done this? Have you got this? Have you got this? And actually the CSR bill, I think, is actually more of an operational resilience piece for organizations rather than being a bunch of checkboxes. So it talks about management of threats, it talks about identification and prevention, but then actually it really focuses on recovery and the implications of either, you know, again, not just having a plan, but actually demonstrating that you've reviewed that plan, that you've put recovery into place, and that you test it and then you learn from it as well. And actually all of the implications all across the organization, you're absolutely right. All of those different organizations are parts of an organization that impacts, but it's actually a board level criteria as well.
Right.
Because there are quite punitive fines if you don't have that resilience in place and you don't have the appropriate measures in place. So by looking at that resilience part of the regulation, you kind of have to think about, how do I protect the data that I've got, and how do I make sure that you can recover that data when you need to?
So how wide and deep does Object First go in terms of product capability and team capability?
Sure.
To, I'll say, get the backup and recovery, get the validation, the test and the validation, to actually proving out for purposes of regulatory audits that you're doing the right thing. Where do you guys sit in that spectrum?
It's a really good question. So when you look at that kind of resilience piece of the regulation, you have to look at, how do I protect my data? You know, so that we know that over 90% of cyber attacks target your backups.
Right.
So the regulation doesn't just say, shows your backups or shows that you have backups. It's kind of like, how are those backups protected? And we talk a lot about immutability, and you see it all over the place, about having immutability in your backup data. But actually what we have is, and we have this independently tested as well, is absolute immutability.
Right.
So there is no access to any destructive actions from an admin or from anybody else in the organization, which is really important when you look at that resilience piece. Because if everyone is compromised, or everything is compromised, all passwords are known and all assets are given away, you have to have something there, that resilient bunker, that allows you to recover, and that's what Object First does. So we absolutely have that resilience in the data and in backup data, but actually the ability for it to be immutable, completely and absolutely immutable. If you know that that's safe and secure, you then plan around the recovery. And you make sure that you know what your recovery plan is. So the recovery element becomes really easy. And then you concentrate on, what am I doing from a testing perspective? Who do I need to speak to? Who do I need to inform? And what are the plans and processes to have in place? Rather than worrying about, am I going to recover? Because with Object First, you know that you can recover.
That's the key, knowing. And I want to talk a little bit about I kind of look at it in terms of good enough. When you check box is one way of looking at that, but even if you're trying to do the right thing, if I have so much budget and good enough is good enough, but I think the good enough bar continues to rise.
You're absolutely right.
Kind of to your point of absolute immutability. That, to me, that's the new level of good enough, and it's pretty dang good.
And you know, we see in regulations and in insurance as well, immutability is named. You have to have immutable storage. But then you have to ask the question of, well, what is immutable? And, as soon as you say, well, that guy over there,
my definition of immutable is
he's, he can change it. He's got admin rights. We have to have someone with admin rights. So as soon as if you can't answer the question of, does anyone have access in a negative way, so if you can't say no to that question, and you can't say, is this independently tested in the positive, how can you be sure you have immutability? And fortunately for us, we can say absolutely no access, and look, it's independently tested.
So how do customers respond to what you deliver? And I don't know if you have any scenarios or use cases or case studies, because a lot of times when you start to define policies across multiple organizations, things start to get complicated and unravel, and I'm assuming that's where you guys come in and
absolutely. So the first three words that I mentioned: secure, simple, and powerful. And simplicity is absolutely one of the keys, which works really well for someone like me. But that simplicity element and it is absolutely key. We talk about basically taking it out of the box, putting it in a rack, taking the object first appliance out of a box, putting it into a rack, connecting it up, and then doing backups. It's as simple as that. So when you look at an organization that's already constrained or under pressure from, in the IT organization, where people are struggling and feel concerned about being responsible for the organization's security overall, having something that you can implement really simply and just point your data backups to takes a huge amount of relief off of individuals in the organization. And then when you look at that from a resource perspective and a budgetary perspective, take away all that management overhead, then it starts to become much more cost effective.
Right.
And when you go to the board and you look at the CISO or anyone else on the board, what they're looking for is something that's simple to manage, something that's easy to implement, doesn't cost them a huge amount of resource to manage as well, but actually enables them to feel secure and know and understand that they have that, and that's all the board cares about.
Right.
So,
yeah. So from the board down to the team managing it has to be simple.
Yeah.
Simple to understand, proof that it's working.
Yes.
Ability actually to do it.
Yes.
And
absolutely.
So I would imagine you get to talk to a lot of customers in all different scenarios and different size of organizations, from banks to retail to whatever.
Yeah.
Is there, you probably have a partner in a system engineer or a sales engineer who gets down in the nitty gritty. Do either of you, someone from your team, yourself, have a favorite quote or comment from a customer that you want to share? And you can name the customer or not.
So I actually had I was at an event a couple of weeks ago, and an actual customer came on the stand, and he said, "I met you last year, and we talked, and we bought Object First." He said, "And the only reason for me coming here today is to basically come here and say thank you very much, because you have made my life so much easier." He said, "I know I've set up Object First, it's running, I know how to do everything, and I don't need to worry about it. And it's given me so much time back." He said, "Thankfully, I haven't had to use it as a recovery,
Right.
but I know that it's there. I know exactly what it's done, and done all my recovery plans, tested it, the worst possible scenario, and I know that I can still recover Object First." And I think that's great, to have just an existing customer come and find you to compliment you. We always talk about bad reviews, right? Everybody hears about bad reviews.
Those are the ones people like to post.
Yeah.
They feel inspired to try. But yeah, it's great feeling when you have a positive.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have customers who've basically said, we've been in that worst case scenario, and Object First is the only thing that's left standing and allowed us to recover and hit our recovery time objectives, which is absolutely critical as well to any organization.
Bad actors are resourceful.
Oh, absolutely, yes. And with AI as well, driving a lot of those attacks. I don't want to talk about AI too much, but AI is absolutely driving a lot more of those attacks and creating a lot more intelligence. we had there's a case in the UK of a customer that went bust because of a single compromised password. You know, they had cyber insurance, they had the plans in place, but they just couldn't recover because they had nothing to recover from. And it caused them to go out of business.
Insurance doesn't help there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Pete, it's fantastic to chat with you.
I really appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
Love what you and the Object First team are doing. And I was telling Anthony Cusimano when I was chatting with him at RSA conference, I want one of those little orange boxes. I need to get one of those.
We're gonna get. I'll get you one.
All right, there we go. We have it on record. No, seriously, I love what you're doing, and it's an important piece of the business. And,
Absolutely.
And clearly, especially in Europe, regulatory requirements. So you should.
They all
be able
have
to recover.
Absolutely. Everyone's getting to the same standard.
Is necessary to get the backstop, which hopefully you don't have to use either in cyber insurance. But,
absolutely.
Good stuff.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Good to see you.
Thanks, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this brand spotlight here from Infosec Europe in London. Stay tuned for more.